Welcome back to the Dungeon Master Academy. I'm Dungeon Master Jeff. Here on the DMA, I interview third-party D&D writers. We talk about the writing process, their creations, and how to best run it at your own gaming table. This segment's featured creator is Mike Arrow. Mike hails from Melbourne, Australia. He's a multiple Ennie nominee for his adventures, Red Door Black Heart, and Bug Hunt. Bug Hunt is our featured adventure. It's a tier 1 APL at level 3. I ended up running this with the fine folks at Austin D&D. Shout out to you guys. It was a super fun time. It was a pleasure talking to Mike. Again, Mike, thanks a lot for your time, and I really appreciate the chat. It was a lot of fun. And no further ado, here's my interview with Mike Arrow.
Pleasure to be here.
Hi, Mike. So why don't you give us some character backstory on yourself?
Well, I started playing D&D in 2018. It's been a fantastic ride. I have so many great memories that I've kind of created, but going into writing D&D, what my real inspiration is movies. So my favorite sci-fi, and having Spelljammer as a setting really let me kind of just jump in and do homages to all my favorite, classics.
Awesome. Being from Australia, I love Australia personally. I've been there a couple times. Being Canadian, I found it very similar to Canada. Has Australia influenced any of your storytelling in like this adventure or past works?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, as Australians grow up on American movies and American media, so there's definitely a huge influence from that. It is the land of, giant bugs. I guess that's kind of a tangential, there's a way in there, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've had Martina Lassen as a guest, and she's from Norway. So I asked her the same question, and her response was, because of Nordic traditions and like the Norse culture, they're very much into storytelling. So their writing is focused more on storytelling than anything else. So I was very curious. So never playing D&D in Australia and knowing it's popular there at the same time, what's a D&D scene like where you're at, and where do you play at?
So here in Melbourne, we have a pretty thriving Adventurers League community. I actually found it just by going to my local game store, and I said, "Oh, do you guys run D&D here?" And they said, "Yes, of course we run D&D." And I showed up the next week and never left, basically.
Oh, how many tables do they run a week, just out of curiosity?
So at our height, pre-COVID situation, we had 5 tables simultaneously on any given night.
Oh, wow.
So on Tuesday nights, we would go and there would be, 40, 50 people all stuck in this little game store. Now we've kind of spread it out. So we'll do 1 or 2 tables, but over multiple nights throughout the week.
Oh, wow. So you could like literally run epics whenever you choose. Like you have enough tables to basically do that at the same time. That's awesome. That's a strong community. Hi, Melbourne D&D people. Hopefully you'll watch this at some point in your life. So your adventure series is built on the Echo system, right? And this is the second adventure within the Echo series. Can you describe what the Echo system is and what's your adventure all about?
Okay, so the Echo system, I guess I wanted a system that was very, very old and kind of ancient and decrepit. From a writing perspective, it's so that basically the place could be deserted and I can put whatever I want in there. Ancient ruins, long dead civilizations, isolated outposts, and it's the perfect kind of setting to put whatever little sci-fi tropes that I want into. Bug Hunt specifically, it takes place maybe almost simultaneously with the first adventure, Starfall, and the inciting incident. What causes the calamity at the outpost is the events that take place in that first adventure. So those who have played it, they kind of get that bit of, oh wait, so that thing happening, that's connected to this other thing. Oh, there you go. It's good world building, I guess.
Yeah, so I don't mind doing spoilers on the show because it's focused towards DM and giving advice to DMs. Sure. So is the first episode Alien then? Does it kind of break down into that, where the second episode kind of translates into Aliens?
So the thing is, the Starfall is a tier 3. It's not meant to be played by the same characters.
Okay.
Starfall is my version of Wrath of Khan. So the whole thing takes place in an asteroid ring around a planet. There's an evil kind of Githyanki pirate that is my Khan, and it's a cat and mouse game like with the Spelljammer ships.
Oh my god, that's so much fun. So the whole Echo series, you just picked movies that you liked and kind of made them work within your storyline?
Yep, 100%.
Awesome. That's so great, because Aliens honestly is one of my, that whole series is one of my favorites. I'm going to give a shout out to Dan O'Bannon, who is the original art director, and made a documentary that I think everybody should check out. It's called Memory. It's on the start of Aliens and how he came up with the concepts as a creative director. Amazing. Aliens 2 is an amazing movie. Strong female lead, written and directed by James Cameron. Amazing storyline, a great cast. One of the best sequels of all times by far. My personal favorite is Bill Paxton's character, Private Hudson. Like when he goes, "Hudson, sir, yes, Hicks. This is going to be a stand-up fight or another bug hunt." Bug hunt. Who is your favorite NPC in this adventure, and how do you RP them?
So I really like the quest giver, Riser. Riser is, of course, named after the actor who played Carter Burke, Paul Riser. So there's like a thematic connection there. But he's just this kind of real slimy, shady opportunist. He's part of the Majors Guild, but he's like at the mid-rank level. So kind of like your middle manager type, but with lofty ambitions. So there's always a bit of push-pull with the players where they don't trust him, but they're level 1. They don't have a choice. He's paying them money, so they have to go on the adventure.
He is so sketchy in the movie too. Like, I loved reading this adventure because I could instantly identify with a lot of the NPCs and how it all laid out of like, oh, I know this already in my head, so it'll be easier for me to DM. Especially I love that there's the young apprentice Plasmoid, and I'm going to butcher the name right now. Ich Thunk.
Oh, look, it's up to your interpretation. I say Ichthanok.
Ichthanok, that's probably how to...
Yeah.
That's I've never been good at that. But who's a Plasmoid? And I'm really not sure how to RP them, because I was kind of thinking about this when I was reading the adventure and getting ready to prep it. Is there any relation to, and I'm just going to go straight to the movie with this, is there any relation between the Plasmoid and Newt? Like, did you do any correlation there? Or what's the RP behind the Plasmoid?
Yeah, so he's like a young apprentice, very much the Newt role in my, basic homage to Aliens, and he hides out in the vents just like Newt, the sole survivor of the outpost, and yeah, he's got this very kind of I give him like in my head, it's like a cabin boy in an old sailing ship. So he's like a little cockney and just like, well, I'll hid in the vents and wait until they came out. Yeah, things like, just kind of like that.
Oh, that's great. I love it in the movie where like Ripley is consoling Newt in like the med bay, and she goes, "Oh, it's okay. You won't have any more bad dreams anymore." Like, and then she points to her doll and says, "Oh, look, your doll won't have any bad dreams over either." And then Newt goes to her, "Well, she won't have bad dreams, Ripley, because she's a piece of plastic." I thought that was just like genius, brilliant writing. I'm really surprised, and the one thing I will say is that you didn't make an auto-gnome bishop. I thought that was kind of like, I was waiting for that to happen. But I absolutely do love your adventure, and love how you picked out the monsters, the Kurthiks. I thought they were great. Works perfectly within the Aliens theme of what you're doing in your sci-fi horror. For those that are unfamiliar with them, and I actually had to do some research myself, did you want to talk about the Kurthiks as a species? Because I think it's important for DMs to understand what the monster's motivation is besides a stat block.
Yeah, I mean, Kruthik, the closest I could probably find to xenomorphs, so I had to do a bit of shoehorning to make it fit, but generally speaking, they're giant insectoid, ant-like bugs, razor-sharp claws and teeth. They're predators, essentially. They use heat to kind of sense out their prey. They're attracted to sources of heat. So I thought to myself, let's have this base have, this energy shield that defends it, and they're drawn to that, but they can't get in. And then the energy shield goes down. What do? Well, they flood the base. So that's kind of the motivation there.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I absolutely love that, because a couple of the things that I was reading about them is they communicate through hisses and clicks, that the sounds could be heard before they attack. I thought that was a really good kind of foreshadowing that you can do, that off in the distance that you hear the clicking. and it starts coming. And I looked a little, I'm that geek guy, so I looked, and the adult and the hive lord have enough intelligence that you could actually parlay with them. But having their own language listed as like a clicking and hissing, do you think that the players can parlay with the monster? Because that's one of my favorite things to do, is have the big bad guy kind of tell their evil plan and like, hey, this is what I'm going to do to you if you don't surrender. Do you think there's opportunity for that?
Sure. I mean, I think as a DM, players are going to throw whatever curveballs they can at you. So if they want to talk to the monster, it's totally up to them. I think, how would you feel if your food started talking back to you? You wouldn't really have much to say. You'd just be like, hey, get back on my plate. So the monsters probably wouldn't have much, conversationally, but yeah, there's something there.
So we're going through dragon level of conversation of like, I will tell you everything that's going on, but very primordial, I guess we'll go with that. I think that's the way I'll play it. Because these are great conversations that I love having with the writers. Because literally next weekend I'm going to be running this game with D&D Austin. Hey, D&D Austin, and they are super psyched. We actually had our session 0 this morning, and they're right into it, which is going to be great. Super fun. They've made a whole band of goblins. All of them are goblins, so it kind of fits within what I planned for them. And you do have some super cool stuff for the players to do in this adventure. There's lots of extra things, extremely creative. Do you want to highlight kind of some of the creative stuff that you got going on?
I think kind of the main set piece, I guess, like creatively, is that orbital drop right at the start. And that's kind of my Starship Troopers homage, more so from the books, where they have the power armor. But it's just a great visual, like dropping down towards the planet, seeing the ship recede into the distance, and players really kind of make a meal of it, where they're stuck in these metal coffins, and they just have to ride it out to the ground. So that's probably my favorite set piece.
I think that's awesome. I think it really sets the tone for the whole adventure as well. Kind of it gives the rush, right? Like things are happening. You're just not sitting in a tavern waiting for something to happen. It's here's the backstory. Here's your adventure hook. Get in the pod, and away you go. It's like a death drop at the same time. And I'm really looking to see how the players interact with it. You were also kind of talking about you love the flavor of the magic items. Do you kind of want to get into that? I know you have some tattoos involved.
Yeah, so that's kind of my favorite part of writing, is coming up with how am I going to insert the item into the adventure in an organic way, because it's never satisfying to just get to the end and it's like, oh, you find this sword over here, that's your item, enjoy. So you want to give it a little bit of customization. The Eldritch Claw tattoo, that's a great item. It's one of my favorite ones. And that extra reach, the extra D6, like players really gravitate towards it. So I thought I need to find a way. These are scientists, they're experimenting. Okay, tattoos, that could be a thing. And then to marry it with the green blood, the alien blood, that kind of made it go, all right, that's what I'm doing with this one.
I'm still gonna have like the monster attack and then another set of jaws come out for like an extra 5 foot of reach. I think that would be absolutely hilarious to do to the players.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about the scientists and the researchers, and this was a question that I honestly had reading the adventure. So the researchers are studying technological artifacts left behind by the precursors, right?
Yeah.
Later in the mod, so the precursors would be the ancient civilization, is what I take from it. Later in the mod, it talks about the precursors artifacts were based around using transmutation magic to alter the basic structure of an object. They are long dead. Do we need any backstory on them to run this module, or is there a story told later on in the series? I'm kind of curious.
There's a little more in the sequel, Return to Echo 3,
Okay. And
and the whole hook with the precursors, you don't really need to know anything about them. They're just ancient, all-wise, technologically advanced, but died out. I never really specified much about these artifacts, because honestly, they're not super important to the story. But the transmutation is the fun thing, because my whole rationale was that the precursors were a race of plasmoids. Very much inspired by the founders in Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
So plasmoids can change their shape, and just as they can change their bodies, they've created technology that works the same way they do.
Oh, that's how it. Oh, okay. I like that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm just wrapping my head around all this at the same time because these are questions that like I've had. I'm like, oh, that's kind of amazing. That's gonna be super fun. That's yeah, because I was thinking the precursors were whatever the Alien Covenant. I'm not sure what they're
Oh,
called
yeah.
in the movie.
Engineers, yeah.
Yeah, the engineers, right? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is there's so many similarities. I love sci-fi horror, so this is amazing for me. Me being the DM that's going to be running this adventure next week, this is really great. What advice can you give me and every other DM on how to run your adventure?
Main thing I always say is don't be beholden to the text. You are, as a DM, you get the genre, you get the tone that we're going for, and whatever happens in that sandbox that I've written is totally valid. So it's up to you to kind of respond to the players, take their offers, and react appropriately. And if it has to go off book, totally fine. But as long as you know you're getting through the beats, then you'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel too. Is there any really challenging parts within this adventure that a DM should be aware of that could like take too much time, or they should kind of watch like combat abilities or something like that?
Yeah, I think to be perfectly honest, I kind of overtuned the combat in response to the initial playtesting. So that first combat down in the engineering room with the energy beams that are coming out of the crystal, that can be quite debilitating. Often with a weaker party, I would just either disable that mechanic entirely or significantly reduce the effect. So I had one character, unfortunately, who was a level 1 and was stun locked for the entire combat because they kept failing the save. So it's not much they can do. So, you know, you got to have a little bit of grace for allowing for that.
That's always a as a player kind of thing, and I try to make sure I don't do this as a DM, is stunning players right at the beginning of combat. There's nothing more disheartening than watching a player going, hey, make a roll, and that's your turn, and watch everyone play for 20 minutes. And you get to make a roll again. Hey, you saved, but you're still stunned till your next turn. I've been in that situation a ton of times, and it's like the beholder stun effect. I don't use that until like they're in a lot of trouble. The one thing that is said in the module for your final combat, I like this because it gives you an option that you don't have to fight the big bad guy at the end. The objective is to get the scientists out and run. That being said, everybody loves the final combat, right? So why'd you choose to kind of give players options? Is that just your character choice, or what are you thinking on that?
I think it was just kind of the reality of tier 1 adventuring, fighting a Kruthic hive lord at full strength. It's just a TPK waiting to happen. So you want to give them those options of trying to stealth in, or alternatively, you know, someone could distract the monster, you know, and do that their own little role play thing while the scientists get out. So it just opens up more tools, you know, for the players to kind of engage with it in a way that isn't just walk in, wake up the queen, and die.
Yeah, right. And it's just like roll initiative and then roll dice and all that kind of stuff. It gives other options. That kind of style of play really became relevant for me for Witchlight when I started playing that, because it's very a non-combat focused. And I've played some modules since that are non-combat focused, and I find them way more entertaining and fun now. That's for sure. So kudos on this of making options for players. When you kind of mentioned your playtest and you've a little bit and having a TPK and kind of lessening things, did you discover any other roadblocks during your playtest process?
One thing I really found was the players are very much inclined to just hang out in the upper levels of the base. And it's up to the DM to really kind of prod them to move into the next room or go downstairs or do something. But I feel like their players can often get paralyzed by their own indecision. So they're just kind of stuck and they need the DM to be like, okay, there's nothing else here. You can keep going.
So just keeping the pace going really and pushing them along. Okay, there's nothing here. Stop looking at everything.
Yeah, basically.
A little bit too much analysis paralysis. So with the playtesting being done, and you ran that a couple times, I'm assuming, what did you change in your adventure after the playtest?
So in the very first playtest, that first combat in the engineering level, I had 5 level 4s, and they basically just slaughtered all of the Kruthic there very easily. So I thought, all right, I got to add another dimension here, something to kind of give them a bit more roadblock. So okay, let's introduce this energy blast mechanic top of every round just to kind of get some damage going and could potentially stun some of them and just give them more incentive to get to the crystal right away and try and disable it.
Yeah, I love the crystal idea. I think that works so well. I know that writing an adventure takes a team of people. Otherwise, like it takes a forever process. I can speak that from experience of trying to do an adventure by myself. Where did you go for support? Because I've discovered some things along the way, but where have you gone for support, and who has helped you out along the way?
So the Dungeon Designers Discord, they're really helpful when it comes to just fleshing out mechanics or story beats that aren't quite working, and they're really kind of good advice from other writers who have been through the same process. So I often pose my questions there, and I get good clarification. And also in my local community where I run my playtesting, playtesters are often other DMs as well and other writers, so they know the feedback that they need to give.
So how did publishing and writing your first adventure or your latest adventure change you as a player or DM? That, because I like to see that transition. A lot of light bulbs turned on for me after writing an adventure and playtesting it, going, oh, it's kind of changed my playing style and my understanding. Has it done anything for you?
Definitely. I think as a player, you're often unaware of the machinations that are going on behind the screen. And writing my own adventure really made me understand how difficult it really is to present the players with a clear objective, that they know what their options are, how to achieve it, and what's in their way. And I think I gained a real appreciation for writers who know how to present something clearly and efficiently without being bogged down in too much exposition and without letting the players kind of be in the dark too long and have to figure it out for themselves.
I really like, now that I'm doing the show, I read a lot of adventures. And when I first published my adventure, I'm like, oh, this is a great adventure. I thought it was awesome and da da da. I still do because I put so much work into it. But now that I've read other people's adventures, I'm like, wow, mine is lacking in a lot of direction at times. And I'd hate to see someone else try to run it in all honesty. But the adventures that you guys have been putting out there are absolutely amazing products, and I'm so blown away by the quality. Really blown away by the quality. Did you have any roadblocks when you were writing or publishing your adventure, and how'd you get over them? Because it was, if it wasn't for the Dungeon Designers Discord, I would have never gotten to where I needed to be able to present. Did you find any roadblocks, and what were they?
I think for me, the main thing is just the technical specificity of the template that you need to use, the writing format, using the D&D language correctly, and making sure all the pieces are in the right place. Because it's one thing to just write out a story outline and run it as a DM, because you can just improvise pretty much everything. Yeah. But when you're handing over a piece of paper to someone else and they need to have all the information, that's a lot harder.
Did you, just a writing question now, when you were writing your adventure, did you just write it straight up, write it in like a doc format, or did you write it in the style guide itself?
Well, so the template that comes with the Dungeon Craft pack, I literally just copy pasted it and then edited in my words instead of the template words. And that seemed to kind of work the easiest. Because knowing what to use where was just very overwhelming to begin with. But when you have an example and just changing the heading or the title or something, much easier.
I totally agree with that. The best advice that I got randomly from somebody was that write in the style guide itself. Instead of trying to write and then copy and paste and format all of that, it'll give you better direction as to what you're supposed to do, and like you're saying, and what's supposed to go in where, whether it's a box text or a highlighted text. I found that my biggest advice to anybody that's trying to write is writing the style guide itself. That worked out really well for me. It's good to, like, I was curious if you had any other tips on that side.
Well, it's oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, you.
My other tip would be just to like sit down and do it. You know, that's the other hardest part, is just having the motivation, looking at a blank page and saying, I need to put something on there.
Okay, so off script question now. How long, like how many hours did it take you from ideation to publishing? Do you have a count on that out of curiosity?
It was about 2 weeks. Within that, there was like several periods where I just sat and wrote for 5-6 hours straight. But yeah, I'd say about 2 weeks worth of work was
So like
appropriate.
80 hours you put this out?
Well, not straight. Just I'd say probably a bit less than that. But yeah, just a couple of long writing sessions in there.
I am very, very envious because I won't even say now how many hours it took me to do mine. Obviously, you're a little more experienced, but 2 weeks, that's really, really impressive. So with what's coming up next, I'm very, very curious what you have in your writing kind of like tunnel line right now, something that might be published sooner or later. You're talking about more echo. I'm very curious.
Well, we've just gotten a new batch of Dungeon Craft rules dropped, so it's hard not to just try and abandon the Echo series storyline and go right into Forgotten Realms or Planescape or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do really want to wrap it all up with like one grand finale adventure. So I've had this idea for a new one that's based around wrapping up all of those storylines and putting it all into one like big tier 3 send off.
Oh, when are we going to see that?
I mean, hopefully before the end of the month, but we'll see.
Oh, okay. And so everyone knows this is pre-recorded, so we'll send it out and we'll do post updates for everybody when Mike has some new stuff out. That's awesome. I am really looking forward to it to see how this all ties in together. Anything else that you would like to share about the process or yourself about D&D or what Melbourne's like or your personal journey?
Yeah, I guess what I would probably say is D&D is the ultimate kind of creative expression. Spelljammer came along and I was in the right place at the right time to make the kind of adventure that I want to play. But it doesn't have to be Dungeon Craft. It doesn't even have to be AL. I think most people, they would be more comfortable just writing whatever is comfortable for them. And I think just make whatever you want to make and people will play it. If the love and the passion is there, people will come and they will enjoy it.
I totally agree with you that, you put all your hard work into something and if you go and run it, your enthusiasm will take over for sure. And people will get excited about your game. That's awesome. Anything else you want to add to us, Mike?
I think that kind of sums it up. Big shout out, of course, to my fellow Melbourne DMs and everyone dungeon designers. And thank you to yourself for running this interview series. I think it's a really interesting project.
It's a lot of fun. I get to meet some really cool writers. I get to run great adventures. That's really kind of what it comes down to is I get some really cool adventures with really great people to write. And we just get to showcase third-party writers, which is really important because they have some of the best adventures out there right now. And especially with D&D basically handing over the AL kind of community to the writers, which is great. So there's a lot of great content coming out. I think even next year will be even better for the third-party community. So that's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for coming today, Mike. I really, really appreciate it. But that's going to wrap up our Q&A. Next up, we're going on a bug hunt. So what could possibly go wrong? I'm going to GM it. Thanks again, Mike, for joining me. You want to say toodles, Mike? Or what do Australians say?
Catch you later.
Good day, mate? No, that's probably...